have a theory about people who hate audiobooks. I don't mean people who just don't like audiobooks, it's not for them. That's fine, grand, love it. I'm talking about people who viscerally hate audiobooks. They think they're the worst thing that could ever happen to the written word, and they should not exist. There's this cultural idea that books are the most pure form of storytelling, that an author locks themselves alone in a dark room and distills the perfect story from their mind to the page, and then you read that page. It is word for word, image for image, exactly how the author wanted to convey it. It is a perfect representation of that story from their mind to yours. But audiobooks add an actor who's going to interpret this story for you. There's now this filter between the author's mind, the author's story, and your ability to perceive that story. You have to work through the actor. There's a barrier there. It's no longer what it was. It's been changed. This is partially true, but it's also entirely ridiculous. Let's start with the partially true. Books are one of the few mediums that aren't intentionally and obviously collaborative. Movies, TV shows, plays, video games, albums, all of these are collaborative storytelling. Different people with different skills come together, and at the end, a story is told. There are writers involved in all of these mediums, but there's also directors and actors, designers, artists, producers, musicians, technicians. The story is not necessarily what the writer wanted. It's not necessarily what they wrote. But books just have a writer. They just have the author. The only other things that come close to this individual concept of storytelling in a book would be a singer-songwriter performing their own songs live while playing a guitar or piano themselves. Or maybe a one-person play where the actor also wrote and directed and staged the whole thing. But the core difference is that with these other forms, these are considered the start of somebody's career. These individual exploits, they're a proof of talent so that you can move on to the next stage. The singer-songwriter will graduate to a full studio album, or maybe a tour with a band. The solo player will graduate to being in a full production company. Now, I'm not saying that's true or accurate or that I agree with it. I'm saying it's a cultural concept that a lot of people have about forms of entertainment, especially people outside of creative circles. But for writers, for authors, the entire thing is a solo venture. There is no graduation. The closest there is to a graduation is getting another book deal. The writing of the book is all there is. That's solo writing, that's solo experience, that's all there is. That's the art form. Adding an actor to an audiobook is expressly collaborative. We now experience a story through a filter. On the most basic level, this is the filter of having a performance, having it performed for you. But on a deeper level, the actor themselves is a huge filter. Their interpretation of the text will change the way that you perceive it. Their tone, rhythm, cadence, even their pronunciation of certain words, that's all going to color the way that you see this story. And that's not even to mention the quality and clarity of the actual technical recording. Can you hear the words? Can you understand their accent? Is it loud? Is it right here? Do they sound like they're at the bottom of a well? So yes, it's partially true. Audiobooks add a filter between the author and the reader. They are giving a different interpretation of the story. It will change in some way between the written book and the recorded audiobook. The experience will be slightly different. And it is entirely ridiculous because these filters have always existed. The story of the solo author, it's just that. It's a story. It's fake. That's not how books are written. Not now and not in the past. They never, ever have been. The first step in writing a book is getting your first draft. Your first draft, especially if you're starting, is not going to be your first draft. Your first draft that people hear of is probably going to be your 6th or 7th. But let's take that. Let's take that as your first draft. You wrote it yourself. Yes, you had to lock yourself in a room and you got words on that page. That's true. And you have made your first draft of this story. The second step is beta readers. Sometimes these are family and friends, but often they're other writers. And these people give you feedback. Feedback on the words you use, feedback on the tone, on what happens in the piece, what the characters are like, what they thought of what's happening. And you take that feedback and you rewrite the draft. This could happen multiple times, but let's say it only happens once. So you rewrite the draft, you move on to an agent, and an agent picks up your work. They'll go through it and they're going to have feedback. They're going to have things that they loved and things that they hated. They might even have specific feedback on things that you need to change so that you can get an editor. And it gets picked up by an editor. Fantastic. This is the point when the real rewrites begin. Everything else was a fake rewrite until you get to your editor's rewrites, and these are the real rewrites. This is what's going to end up in the book that's published. The final book that you read, that you get on a shelf, is a massive collaborative project. It has been changed time and time again based on different people's feedback and how different people saw and interpreted and filtered that story. And then again, how the author interpreted their interpretation. It's hugely collaborative. You were never getting a pure storytelling experience straight from the author's brain with nothing in between. That never happened. That never existed. The main difference with audiobooks is that you know about it. It puts the collaboration front and center. You can't help but know that there is a filter. And even though there could have been hundreds, if not thousands of filters before this one, now you can see it. So now you care. But it was always there. Adding collaboration does not dilute art, but it does change it. It now goes through different filters, different interpretations, different ways that it can be experienced. The filter could be rose-tinted glasses. This is not the story. This is not the version of the story that you're supposed to see. This isn't what's actually there. Or they could be sunglasses. Some people never wear them. Some people wear them all the time, even at night. But most people only wear them in certain circumstances. At times when this filter is going to improve their experience. They're going to make brilliantly sunny days more enjoyable. It's going to let them experience more. And it's going to let them see things much more clearly than they ever could have without those sunglasses. And on top of all of that, it reduces eye strain. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to know what your take on audiobooks and why people actually hate them. Like, genuine reason why people have a problem with audiobooks. I'd love to know what you think. So drop a comment. If you found this interesting, or maybe it made you think about this in a different way, then consider subscribing. And I'll see you again in the next video.